Trump forces Europe's hand because he put Greenland front and center and forced Denmark, the European Union, and NATO allies to react at the pace of the United States. This Monday, June 8, 2026, the crisis gained momentum again. After Marco Rubio stated in the US Congress that talks with Denmark and Greenland are still going well, and that Washington maintains monthly dialogue about the strategic use of the island for defense. Europe tried to treat Trump's statement as a provocation. Denmark resists. Greenland becomes a military asset. The European Union tries to avoid a new tariff dispute, and Trump shows that when he puts a topic on the table, the allies rush to respond. What does Trump really want? Why did Europe go on alert? How did Greenland become the new pressure point against Brussels? I'll tell you all about it in a moment. If you like this kind of straightforward and no-nonsense content, consider subscribing, because here there's a video like this every day. Marco Rubio spoke about the case in a hearing at the United States House of Representatives. He was asked about the situation in Greenland, which is an autonomous territory linked to the Kingdom of Denmark. The question was simple. Do the United States need to own land within NATO in order to defend it? Rubio acknowledged that the island is part of Denmark, but added a remark that set off alarm bells in Europe. For now, his statement hasn't gone unnoticed. It showed that the Trump administration hasn't dropped the subject. On the contrary, it put the dispute into a more discreet, more diplomatic, and more dangerous phase for the Europeans. Because now, the pressure doesn't just appear as a public statement, but as constant conversation between governments. The most important information is that the United States is discussing with authorities from Denmark and Greenland every month about using the island for collective defense. And that changes the stakes of the debate. We're not just talking about a symbolic purchase, a strong statement, or a provocation against Copenhagen. Washington is looking at Greenland as a defense base, a surveillance outpost. That's where Trump outmaneuvers Europe, because he forces the allies to discuss security on his terms at the time he set and under the pressure he himself created. Greenland scares Europe because it's not just any island. It's in a strategic position between North America, the North Atlantic, and the Arctic. For the United States, that location has direct military value. The Pituffik Base, formerly the Thule Base, already operates as an American military installation on Greenlandic territory and takes part in missile warning, missile defense, and space surveillance. In other words, Trump didn't just make up the importance of the region out of nowhere. He just brought into the political debate what American generals, diplomats, and strategists have seen for decades. Whoever controls that area better has an advantage in the defense of the North Atlantic. Denmark's reaction shows that the issue is no longer a joke. On June 2, 2026, Prime Minister Matt Frederiksen presented the agenda of his new government after more than 2 months of internal negotiations. Among the priorities was resisting Trump's pressure over Greenland and defending the sovereignty of the Danish kingdom. This shows the extent of the pressure. A small but important European nation within NATO had to put Greenland at the center of its new political phase. Copenhagen knows that any concession will be seen as backing down before Washington. The European Union also got the message. On the same day, a committee of the European Parliament moved forward with a measure to fulfill points of the trade agreement with the United States and avoid a new tariff clash with Trump. The move involves reducing tariffs on American industrial goods and providing better access for agricultural products and seafood from the United States, while the European Union tries to prevent Washington from increasing the pressure with new tariffs. In practice, Brussels is trying to lower trade tensions at a time when Trump is maintaining geopolitical pressure on Greenland. Europe doesn't want two fronts open at the same time, one in trade and another in the Arctic. Trump uses this combination with political precision. He puts pressure on Denmark over Greenland, pressures the European Union on trade, and forces NATO to recognize that Arctic security depends increasingly on the United States. The old European elite tried to project the image that they could ignore Trump, but reality showed up quickly. The case bothers the European Union because it exposes a contradiction. Brussels likes to talk about strategic sovereignty, European autonomy, and military independence, but it still depends on American protection in sensitive areas. Greenland shows this directly. The island belongs to the Kingdom of Denmark, but the most relevant military structure there is American. Missile defense, space warning, and surveillance in the Arctic depend on an American presence that Europe cannot replace. Trump noticed this weakness and put his finger exactly where it hurts. Rubio made it clear that these conversations are ongoing, and when he says he expects good news at some point, Europe understands that the Trump administration is moving forward within the system without needing to announce an immediate break. The pressure also arises because Greenland has increasing economic and geopolitical value. The Arctic has become a more contested area because of shipping routes, natural resources, strategic minerals, and the military presence of major powers. Russia and China are watching the region with interest. The United States doesn't want to wait for the European Union to wake up too late. Trump is treating Greenland as a national security asset. For him, it doesn't make sense to leave a vital area vulnerable to European bureaucrats who talk a lot but depend on American strength when a crisis hits. History helps explain why this issue keeps coming up. In 1946, after World War II, President Harry Truman's government offered $100 million in gold to buy Greenland from Denmark. The proposal was rejected, but the United States maintained military access to the island and later consolidated its presence through defense agreements. This shows that Trump didn't come up with an absurd idea out of nowhere. He revived an old vision of American security. Greenland is too important to be left out of the United States' strategic calculations. Other nations have already acted this way in sensitive areas. Russia treats the Arctic as a military priority zone and is reinforcing bases, radars, and routes in the north. China tries to present itself as a power close to the Arctic, even without having territory in that region, because it knows that the routes and resources may be important in the future. The United Kingdom has always protected key maritime points to control passage, trade, and defense. Trump looks at this board without any romanticism. For him, strong nations protect strategic positions before adversaries occupy the space. The difference is that Trump says this out loud. Europe prefers long meetings, vague statements, and diplomatic language. He prefers direct pressure. That's how it was with tariffs. That's how it was with NATO defense. And now it's the same with Greenland. Europe may complain about Trump's style, but it has to deal with the strength of American politics. I'm Milson Alves, an internationalist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.